Hello and welcome to Simblified, a podcast where we unpackage hard to understand things and make them harder to understand, a bit like college. I am your host, Naren, and with me are the ever smiling, ever funny, and ever distinguished Tony and Chuck.
Thank you.
Hi, guys.
Hi.
Do all the adjectives apply to both of us, or is it like only to the first one?
Selective.
But the guy who's nicer to me gets.
We should do a match the following. Before we move on with the pressing issue of the day, let us talk about the thing behind you that is used for pressing. Can you give us a lowdown on the ironing board that is behind you, Naren?
So, Sheila.
I love how he didn't even have to look back. He knew exactly what I was talking about. Naren has spatial awareness of his ironing board, which is amazing. If you ask me where the iron is in the house right now, it'll probably take 20 minutes to dig it out, but okay.
Yeah, so what are the word? OCD. She's OCD about creases, right? So she's worse than batsman.
MS Dhoni behind the stumps.
MS Dhoni behind the stump. I mean, she keeps ironing everything and she needs an ironing board in the room at all times. And my problem with the ironing board is very close to the door. So every time there is any kind of violence with the door, the damn thing, like, it'll fall on me.
Let's talk about the violence at the door. I think that's a more interesting segment, but this.
Yeah. So my son has a habit of just barging in. If you are sitting close to the door, you have to make sure there's enough space for the door to open, because he's apt to just roll into the room like a tornado or typhoon.
Yeah.
Or
then
something.
what you should do, Naren, is I think you should place a bell outside so that he can ring it before he comes in. So then if you look at the three of us right now, then you will have a ring instrument while Tony and I have string instruments behind us.
And I mean, does he hate Jim? Does your son hate Jim Morrison? Because why is he slamming doors?
Oh, Jim. Oh, that worked on multiple levels.
Oh, okay. well played. Yeah. Well,
Your surprising knowledge of classic rock is,
Yeah. My Doordarshan is quite, anyway.
Tony is really up the game. Yeah, my son is inordinately fond of the Doors himself. So yeah, I'm forced to listen to the group all the time. So
but
it's
I
quite
think we
nice,
should
actually,
move on
isn't it?
and open the doors for, as it were, for the topic at hand.
Yeah, from violent slamming of doors to more non-violent ways of communicating, apparently.
We are all abhor violence. That's why the topic of today is something called non-violent.
Basically simplified for the last 270 episodes.
Yeah, it reminded me of one of Yes, Prime Minister episodes where Humphrey is, he was in the past responsible for conducting a departmental inquiry on one of his colleagues who was the head of MI6, who later turned out to be a spy. But, Humphrey did all the interrogation and he found no evidence and he exonerated him completely. So now the needle of suspicion is on Humphrey. So Jim Hacker is making him sweat a lot. And Humphrey is saying, there were subtleties. This was non-confrontational approach. This is how we conduct inquiries. So Jim Hacker says, you lulled him into a true sense of humor.
And by the way, for all those who are listening, who have wondered this in the past, Naren is not actually reading this out from somewhere. He's reciting Yes Minister scripts from memory, it must be said.
Yeah.
Good clarification to make on the first video recorded episode of Simblified.
There was a time when I knew like swathes of Humphrey's dialogue
Naren,
by
it's
heart.
like swimming. You just need to get into the pool. So we'll sign you up for recitation and I'm sure it'll all come rushing back to you. But let us actually rush into the topic at hand. We keep deviating from it. Non-violent communication, you say.
It's very interesting. And I came across this recently. I was reading something and it made a lot of sense. Now, in a nutshell, so wherever we communicate with people, in different situations, work situations, personal situations, among friends, among acquaintances, every now and then there is cause for conflict. This happens if two people are together or interacting in any way. Conflict is bound to happen. And how dare you? You're so stupid. So this is what happens, right? We tend to personalize it and we tend to attack the person rather than the issue at hand. And then it becomes personal. Then it's no longer, and it becomes harder and harder for the conflict to resolve. It occasionally spirals so out of control that, people who once loved each other cannot bear the sight of each other, they divorce. Or some people who are absolutely a team at work now cannot, are actually working at cross purposes to the organization.
What's the difference? Just want to ask, what's the difference between this type of attack on a person during a communication and martial methods during the lockdown?
What's the difference?
One is ad hominem and the other is at home Eminem.
Well played. Chuck has been dethroned. So, Chuck, you can officially hand over your crown.
I empathize with Nish Kumar sometimes, Like, wow, well done, Tony. That was really good. I mean, what I'm groaning more is the fact that your knowledge of music has risen to dangerous levels. And I say dangerous because that's going to add one more arrow into your arsenal of, pun references and things like that. So anyway, we will talk about this later. Anyway, good stuff.
Wait till I start quoting Linkin Park now. Anyway.
The question is, what do? You cannot eliminate conflict. It's not possible. It's a human condition. And in fact, oftentimes conflict is desirable. It helps the creative process for some time. Oftentimes, it helps avoid mistakes. If I were taking a decision, let's say it's a work situation, I'm taking a decision and I have somebody who is questioning me, I'm more likely to, sort of reevaluate my assumptions or priors or whatever before taking the decision, because it could be that I might put my company at a loss. So conflict is desirable in many cases. The only problem is you don't want it to degenerate into a, Eminem at home kind of thing. It has an interesting history. So it was devised by this guy named Marshall Rosenberg. And where Marshall Rosenberg came from is he wanted to end racial segregation in schools, generally racial segregation in the South, in that tumultuous period in the US. Yeah. He was a Jewish guy, and growing up, he became a psychologist, and he suffered a lot of anti-Semitism and things like that. So he had been sort of trying all his life to engage people constructively. So if somebody is racist or anti-Semitic to you, your first reaction is one of either you cover in, sort of fear and try to slink away. You wouldn't instinctively reason with your attacker. Marshall Rosenberg found that if you empathize with the guy or whoever it is that is attacking you and try to find where they're coming from, it would oftentimes be possible to resolve the conflict in a very beneficial way to both people. That's where he was coming from. He applied this to racial integration. He sort of had a good deal of success. He became quite a famous guy.
What time period was this in?
60s, 70s, late 60s, early 70s.
If he were now, he wouldn't be Marshall Rosenberg, he'd be Marshall Wokenberg.
Yeah. If you look at it, some part of it sounds like, woke manifesto only. But I've been trying to apply it to work situations more, because home we really don't have any conflict.
You smiled a little too much when you said that. So let us quickly pass it over.
Coming from a person who was stuck behind an iron board and a hard place, I believe you.
So basically what you're saying is try to see where the other person is coming from and address that, rather than the fact that the attack key is Jew or black or whatever the case is, right? It's kind of interesting.
No, and simple things. I was a few minutes late to the recording, right? And, if you really had an important meeting right after this recording and, you're really counting the minutes, you would be irritated. And you would say, what is this? We expect to start with. Yeah. And for me...
you didn't hear any of what we said.
Yeah. So for me, it is important to keep my cool and try and understand why you are irritated, right? Rather than assuming that you guys are irritated with me because you don't like me and you've never liked me and you think I'm a useless fellow. It just spirals out of control. Rather than that, all of it might be true, but you would never think like that. On your part, it would be very helpful to consider why I might be late. I might be coming from somewhere, maybe another meeting, maybe I was stuck in traffic, maybe I had some glitches in my internet or whatever. That forms a basis for action. And you can say that, in future, please make sure that you are here 5 minutes earlier rather than later, because there are these work meeting situations which I just cannot avoid being late or something like that. So that's how nonviolent communication works. Obviously, it's very idealistic. It's totally pravachan based. You can just keep going on and on about it. But some of the core principles I really liked, and I'm trying to implement this. Incidentally, when Satya Nadella took over as CEO of Microsoft, the first thing he made people read, all his senior people, was Marshall Rosenberg's book. He has I don't know what the book is called, but I'll try and link to it in the show notes.
It's kind of counterintuitive to how the species has evolved, right? I'm guessing those two reactions that you said, which is you either retreat or you attack. That seems like kind of what our wiring actually is. And this is kind of like a way to evolve out of that.
Correct. There are opposing axes to this. So one is group dynamics. So within the tribe, till very, very recently, we were just hunter-gatherer tribes. And within the tribe, it was important to get food rights, to get mating rights, to get whatever, to have a sort of either acceptance or a leadership position within the tribe. And if you didn't have a leadership position or a acceptance position, you would suffer in every way, even security, so I was reading somewhere, back in if the group is sleeping and somebody wants to really screw you, all they have to do is silently get up and go away. And if you just continue sleeping alone for an extra 30 minutes, chances are something or someone in the jungle will kill you. That's why you really, really need to be part of a team. That's why it's so important for us to have everyone else's approval. Everyone talks about being, I don't care, I don't this, I don't care what other people say. But at a very fundamental level, you do, because that's the way you're hardwired. You do care about what other people say and think about you. So that is one. And the second thing is, because you're a hunter-gatherer group, your food security depends on how well, and general security depends on how well you work as a team. So if you have some members who are not on board with, it could compromise everything. I mean, you could die of hunger, or you could die of an attack by predators or an attack by a rival group. So at some level, we are hardwired to cooperate and be part of the team.
Yeah. And the consequences are large, right? It's not like you can leave one group and join another. Basically, born into a tribe, you have to be there. So.
Yeah. Thing is, as civilization progressed, into modern times, especially so, your security, your physical security and a lot of the jungle aspects of insecurity have gone away. Really, you're not worried about food. You're not worried about a wild animal coming and eating you. Worried about some strange tribe coming and beating you up. The other part of the thing, that group dynamics where you need to be, above someone or better than someone, that is still unrestrained. And so you oftentimes find, especially in political leadership situation, there are people who will do anything to overcome some other rival and come up. It does lead to violent communication. So it's also practical for people to be able to parse this rationally, because if you react immediately or react with passion or in anger, it's always going to be a reaction which is not to your benefit. That's what Marshall Rosenberg said.
Yeah, let's ruminate over that for a bit. And should we take a non-violent break?
Welcome back after that little break, non-ad hominem break. And we were discussing about non-violent communication.
This reminded me, I just wanted to give you one example that I remember during the last few years have been some of the ugliest politically around the world, right? Especially in the US, there was this one website that somebody had started. I forget what the name is and all that, but it's a nice idea where they basically wanted to get Democrats and Republicans to sign up and kind of pair them with each other basis their locality and invite them for a conversation across a table so they could see each other's point of view. And that many of them are not attacking Democrat because he or she is a Democrat, but because they're coming from a certain worldview point of view, like lived experience and all that. And of course, the reverse as well. It's not like all Republicans are racists and whatever, but they're coming from a certain point of view of security and seeing their jobs being taken away by somebody and whatever the case may be. And I remember watching some videos on that and how people became friends as a result of that. Of course, it was a very small experiment, unlikely to have gone to scale, but it kind of underlined the potential for something like this. I mean, a lot of media, unfortunately, is driven by these kind of, you want that extremity. Yeah,
Conflict.
You want the violent communication to drive eyeballs, to drive traffic, to drive advertising, etc., etc. It just makes me feel like what beautiful discussions could actually be had with rational discussions with two people from opposing sides of the table. So the potential is there. I think human beings, especially when you see each other in real life and have a discussion across a table, those idealistic things that you said could actually come out in the open. Oh, well, maybe that's too much a dream of politically. But yeah, I think on a daily level,
vast majority of people actually
want to go on with their lives,
violence. You will not. So if there is situation where there is violence in an office, let's say you're working in an office and two people are fighting, your impulse is to shy away from it. You don't want to be part of the violence, stay, sort of yell, get into an... But there is a small minority of people who totally thrive on that. So they like to, and that's what causes the problem. And there is this observation that when mobs form and start inciting violence, all of us, we have a threshold. So some of us might be the ones to start the violence. Some of us might join after 10 people have started rioting. And some of us wouldn't till 100 people had joined. But all of us probably have a threshold. So the focus has to be on the people who actually go and start
completely
these
unrelated.
things. So
mosh pits at metal concerts kind of have the same dynamic, but with far less violent results. Although I did break a pair of glasses in one once. But anyway, that's not what we were talking about.
But is there a definition to violent communication, as it were, or non-violent?
There isn't. It's basically when you go ad hominem, to use one word that we haven't used yet, ad hominem. And basically when you try to view everything with a personal, hidden agenda lens. So malicious intent. So you assume that everything that is done. The other thing is when you personalize things. So if one of your colleagues made a presentation, let us say, important to you, important to your entire group, and left out some key slides. Okay. Yeah. And if you go and accost him and say, you are a stupid fellow, you're an idiot, you can expect nothing better or everything, you are not addressed the issue at hand. You've not even told that person or not even discussed why those slides were left out or what possible reasons could be. You have already attacked him or her as a incompetent or a foolish person. So you lost that person, basically. You're never going to work
you
again.
have made, as in the attacker has made the assumption that this person is as incompetent or stupid in every other aspect of his or her life. Yeah. Like the famous philosopher Sachin Tendulkar once said, play the ball on merit and not on the reputation of the bowler. I'm sure he nicked that from somewhere, but it's quite nice and I can't find who actually... So unless there is a cricket podcast around that can actually get to the root of that, we will attribute it to said Bandra West resident. But yeah, what were you saying, Naren?
And that brings us to the very interesting question of anger. Okay. So anger is also a very natural, very spontaneous emotion. So you see anger from toddlers to, at every age and every social level, there is anger in some form or the other. And it's very interesting. So there are at least 3 categories. You can put anger into many categories. But the most interesting categories are the passive. So passive anger is when, I'm upset about something you said, I just stop talking. I'm just excessively polite to you.
But the resentment is there. The resentment is there.
Yeah, it's there. I don't want to have anything to do with you. And you have never been told what exactly it is. Good luck with resolving that. You have no clue. Let us say you made a pun which I found offensive. Let us say, okay? And the best thing for me to do would be to just tell you that, boss, this is an offensive pun. It's not nice, or I find it offensive.
Yeah.
And you can apologize, move on, or just silently, whatever.
But,
I mean, you can't help offending some people some of the time. Yeah.
Like you might be a hardcore Eminem fan right now, and there's resentment.
I'm so offended, right? So I shouldn't even make eye contact with Tony anymore. Yeah. And Tony would never know. What my beef with that Eminem pun was. Yeah. So that is one. According to me, that's the worst. And almost equally bad is the aggressive version of this. So aggressive anger is when, usually it'll happen in a stressful environment. It happens. You have an important flight to catch and they tell you that the flight is cancelled or something, or it's very much delayed. Your first impulse is to find someone and yell at that person.
Yeah.
We all do that. And usually the person who told you that, some poor guy, sort of, just a management trainee kind of guy, is basically told to go. And then everyone catches him and abuses the hell out of him.
Except one mistake you made is that it will be a management planee in your case. I'm really sorry. Really sorry.
Chuck, that's a really offensive part. I have to tell you.
Really sorry.
No, but I just remembered... basically my dad worked for the Department of Telecom, which later became BSNL, which he retired there at the age of 60. And then, but basically there are directories for, listing people's contacts and whatever, right? So this is some 2 years after he's retired, he gets a phone call. And that person's like, are you, this person who's supposed to be handling BSNL? He said, no, I've retired, but is there something I can help you with? I can, direct you to the right contact, or I can, just take down the complaint myself. He's like, no, I have no complaint. I just wanted to abuse someone in BSNL. so my dad is like, okay, maybe then try another number.
I'm sure your dad had a hearty laugh after that. Hence, the age-old expansion of BSNL, which is Bada Sebastian, now laughing. Sorry.
Oh! Wow.
BSNL, I literally opened a typepad over here and said Bada Sebastian. Now let's see what the story goes so I can fill in the NL. For everyone listening, this is how we write simplified episodes now on the fly.
Yeah. Because we are management planees. Because on the fly.
Oh, nice.
We are winging it. We are winging it.
Anyway, Naren, I feel we are belittling an actually serious topic with all these unnecessary flights.
It's like, flights.
No, so Naren's reactions to us trying to derail the conversation is a perfect example in nonviolent communication. He's still got a beatific smile on and he's carrying on gamely without.
I should be Bernard Woolley-ish and point out that you can't really derail a plane, right? So it'll have to be something else.
It's just the kind of thing Bernard would say. But yes, where were we now? So you keep it pent up inside you, or you?
Yeah. So we were talking about external and internal causes of anger. So external causes are a stressful environment or an event or a physical, somebody just comes and
you just feel like you've been slighted. You just feel like something unfair has been done to you and you need to kind of react instinctively or something like that. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. There are internal causes also. So if you're worried about something else, stressed about something else, or, you have internal causes, you're anxious about something, you're worried about something else, you are more likely to be angry for a provocation, which in normal times you wouldn't.
If you haven't had a meal, if you haven't had breakfast.
Yeah, if you haven't had a meal is the commonest thing, right? So they found a very interesting study done on bail application in a US court.
Yeah.
And there was an enormous difference between a bail granted before lunch and after
lunch. Just
lunch.
before lunchtime.
Everybody gets refused bail. And after lunch...
It makes me wonder if intermittent fasting people are actually angrier than most.
I'm doing intermittent fasting. But actually, beside the point, but once you're used to the thing, you have absolutely no
your mood feels better and all that. But
in fact, I've been fasting so much, I'm planning to offer fasting as a service. So any political rallies, anyone wants to hunger strike, anything like that, you can reach out to me. Rates are very reasonable. I'll go and fast for you. Yeah.
Wow. Fasting as a service.
Quick plug. Thank you. Now the commercial is over.
Fasting as a service. Amazing.
Actually, it could even be better. Starving
No,
as a
and
service,
if you
right?
make
So
all
it
the
would be
puns, right? So
SAS,
while
right?
everybody is trying for 10-minute, 20-minute delivery, you're the guy who's actually fasting. Yeah. I think this episode
actually,
definitely has the...
We fast. You should go and tell we fast. You don't. I fast. You deliver.
Intermittent fast was recently the bowling pioneered by Venkatesh Prasad. Bowling pioneered by Venkatesh Prasad. Bowling pioneered by Venkatesh Prasad, where he would bowl like 5 slower balls and occasionally bowl a faster one. So, intermittent fast.
Naren, please bring us back to this topic before we have given Tony an opening into 90s Indian pace bowling. So
70s was even more awesome, right? When I remember when we were kids, there was this guy named S.
Yes, but
Abhidani.
again, why are we talking about cricket? Is why.
This is from pace now, it's a spin-off conversation. We're spinning off into
Naren,
directions.
please tell us more about it. Desperately need right now.
So, yeah, we were talking about anger, right? So, the point is, knowing all these causes is important because that helps you manage your anger.
Yeah.
And expressing anger is almost never beneficial to anyone. Even if you genuinely feel and you righteously feel and you deserve to feel anger, it's not a good idea to express it. So, you need to know your trigger signs. So, you need to identify negative thought patterns. In my case, it happens. I literally know when I'm going to get angry, very, very often. It just goes, you go into that loop and you know that you're going to. Then the other thing is triggering. So you have some people, places, or situations that trigger you. And it's a good idea to avoid those. You may have some irritating relatives or, it happens in many of our WhatsApp groups. So I avoid some family WhatsApp groups. I consciously don't look at it. I just swipe it. I don't want to leave it because then it becomes a huge thing like, oh, he's left the WhatsApp group. I just swipe it. WhatsApp is beautiful. You just sort of open it and just close it.
Just archive it. No, just archive it so it's not even in your,
So that's one of the things to do. So because if I start fighting on my family WhatsApp group, there'll be no more podcasts. There will be nothing. I will just be doing this full time. I have a big family, lots of people. And literally everyone is fighting.
So this is an interesting way of dealing with anger, which is to think of what the outcome will be. I think that's something my therapist also told me once, but you are taking it to another extreme. Like when he told me, he said like day will be ruined or, your phone will be broken or whatever the case may be. But you're taking to another level saying that, oh, if I give in to this anger, then I will have to waste all my time engaging with bulbs on WhatsApp. I think thinking about the outcome hence is, and also just general advice, I think speaking to a therapist if you're feeling angry, I think it's a very good idea. Yeah, you're right. Identifying anger and all that is, identifying triggers and all that is a very, very useful exercise. Simple things, but just...
Yeah. And the other thing is the good old count up to 10. Now, basically what it means is you wait till you're calm before expressing your displeasure. You just shut up and just wait. Yeah. This is very useful in work situations. Yeah. Work situations, very, very important not to respond immediately.
If you're angry, never write a mail when you're angry.
Just shut up.
Listen to an episode of Simblified.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay,
so that's how you...
So then what like sometimes situations demand an immediate response.
So one thing is extremely satisfying to yell at someone. Actually, I used to say that I have a small business, right? I can't yell at my customers because they won't give me orders. I can't yell at my suppliers because they won't give me material. And I can't yell at my employees because if they don't turn up to work, how am I going to run my business? I can't yell at my wife because if she leaves me, where am I going to get such a beautiful wife ever again? Oh. So that's not going to happen.
This is why you joined Twitter.
I was about to ask, is that what this show is for? For Naren to rant. We finally have it. After close to 280 episodes, Simplified finally has a mission statement. This is where Naren gets off steam. Nice. So feel free, Naren. You can, if you want to.
I can't yell at my kids because who's going to ply me with alcohol in
Most
my
people, I don't
old age.
think as far as you do, Naren. I think you're, what you
correct.
said right now can apply to anybody who has ever yelled, like a boss who's yelled at a subordinate, like thinks it through. Like this person can leave tomorrow, like as we are seeing in a company called Ola Electric. So I think you're just a nice guy.
No, but
I like how
I
both
think,
of you contradict
sorry.
that.
I'm just saying, like, I think probably what Naren meant was like he is quick to anger, but he has to find a way to.
Yeah. So what I used to do was I used to call up Airtel back in the day and I used to yell at them. And Airtel was so nice. They train their employees so well. They'll apologize for you can yell at them for the potholes in the road. Airtel guy will still say, sorry, sir. We'll see what we can. They are absolutely the most polite. I don't know how now because my anger management is much, much better. I don't need to call them and yell at them.
There
But
was a
back in the
campaign
day,
for Iceland tourism during the pandemic. So if you're feeling stressed because you're inside the house, just call up this number and yell, let it all out. And Iceland has actually placed speakers in some random locations in remote Iceland. And the screams just go into the ether, into the void over there. I thought that was kind of brilliant. Sorry, you were saying something.
There's this concept called rage rooms, I
yeah.
think primarily in the US, where you can basically like go in, pay a fee and destroy everything.
Sounds like a
that is
great
there,
idea.
right?
I wish there was one actually.
Yeah. The most common item that they had to keep replacing was printers because for some reason everyone wants to smash printers.
Why not? I looked up if there was a rage room. I would love to do one just for the experience of it. Not that I have anger issues as far as I can tell, but there is a broken table over here. So, hey, what do I know? Apparently, India's only rage room is in Indore. So, I can't find one. Anyone knows there's a rage room somewhere in the whereabouts of Mumbai. Let me.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing, right? Like therapists come time box for 50 minutes, right? Let's say the rage room has the same concept and the person's still going on. Who is going to stop that? Like, you have to go in and say, sir, your 50 minutes is up. Yeah, you think my 50 minutes is up.
Oh, God. That's amazing.
Oh, man, yeah. That's the biggest, like somebody comes up on Shark with a startup idea of rage rooms or all this. One question they'll have to figure out how to answer.
And India manifests its rage on the roads, right?
Yeah. No, and it's very sad. It's very sad. I mean, the traffic situations are impossible. And then you have these fights and violence, and really, it's just a dent on your car or your bike or whatever. And no matter how much you beat the other guy up, the dent is not going to fix itself. So what really do you achieve? But it's very important for people to threaten. There are even cases where the guy, so there was one case a few years ago where one fellow was so angry, he hit the other person and the person died.
Yeah,
okay? And this guy decided to take off. It was at one of those Pune Expressway toll gates. And obviously he was caught. There were cameras, they identified him. And that guy, for the satisfaction of that little outburst, is now doing life in prison.
Whoa.
Was it worth it? Yeah. His life is over. Yeah.
Wow. We've covered a fair bit of territory. We went from nonviolent communication to Pune
Expressway. Yeah. That was fast. It's faster than the Pune Expressway.
Basically, breathe, take stock of the situation, don't shoot the messenger.
So basically, identify and manage your anger. So anger cannot be avoided. If you do feel anger, you have to express it assertively. Always identify the issue and attack the issue. So whatever, no? If you're late, you should just tell the person firmly that, I don't like you to be late because it wastes everybody's time. Please be on time or something like that. And not resort to ad hominem, attacks. You're stupid and so on and so forth. And so Marshall Rosenberg also, and a lot of other people, they found this very spiritual. They found it, the whole process of nonviolent communication very spiritual. So Christians, for example, so if you go to the very, very, very essence of Christianity, you remove all the, the myth. The basic thing is you love your fellow human being. That is the essence of Christianity. You're supposed to come from a place of compassion and love. So a lot of Christians thought that it had meaning in Christianity. And a lot of Buddhists felt that it came from the Buddhist sort of, central tenet that you shouldn't have any attachment to anything. And, the origin of anger is an attachment to things. So if you don't have attachment to anything, you will not feel anger. So these kind of things. So nonviolent communication has this big spiritual angle. So that is one thing to
in fact, I remember seeing some comedian somewhere saying how all religions essentially boil down to don't be a dick to other people. Essentially.
Exactly.
I tried to Google this to see who said it. I couldn't figure out who said it, but what I do have over here, and this is likely to offend some people or not, is a t-shirt with Jesus Christ on it saying, don't be a dick.
Don't be a dick. Okay. Yeah. I think one of the most common or popular bumper stickers in the US is WWJD, right? What would Jesus do?
This is kind of interesting. Yesterday, unrelated to this particular topic, but my wife and I were discussing about how to handle certain kinds of situations. And she has a friend who handles those kinds of situations very well. And now she uses that person as a reference. So exactly what you said. She has an acronym. What would X do?
Yeah.
WWXD or WWXS or something for say or something. Kind of interesting, right? Maybe we can have these lodestars in our lives and just think about what would like Naren eat, for example, and not to stereotype Naren, or how would Tony write, for example.
Yeah, good. I think we're really scraping the bottom of the barrel now. Mm-hmm. But I think, the fundamental sort of difficulty here is that someone who gets angry from time to time knows that they have faced difficulties because of their anger, right? But they are not going into it with a logical frame of mind to say, I'm going to jeopardize myself by getting angry. Yeah.
And by definition, nonviolent communication is all about rationality. So if your rational mind is not operating, how do you get someone to be nonviolent? Yeah. So that's an interesting criticism that is one of the main criticisms of nonviolent communication is, so the relative strength of the individual is vastly overestimated. So it works for most of us. We are privileged people. We don't have to deal with, in control of yourself. Many of they're called structural violence, right? So racism,
right.
or poverty, or those kind of things, they're always there for some people. It's not there for us. We are at the top of the heap. No one is, chasing you out of room. No one is saying, sorry, you can't sit here. You're the wrong caste or the wrong community or whatever. All those kind of things don't happen to you. And what about someone who does? They have that pent-in frustration and anger at all times. And what if they keep getting violent in communication? How do you deal with that? The nonviolent communication group's answer to that is, it is part of the problem. I mean, it's a problem. It's another kind of problem that you have to solve. But the fact remains that everyone has to communicate non-violently in order to work as a group, as a civilization.
It's idealistic, not necessarily completely practical.
So the main criticism, it is a lot of faff. And
I don't think it's faff. I think it makes sense. It's just that it's a little... Again, it's more idealistic than practical, at least, especially...
Yeah. I think it makes sense at an individual level.
Yeah, it makes sense at an individual
level.
It's
for you to do. You can't expect everyone to be non-violent in their communication. You can't. But it's up... you can.
That optimistic-ish note. Yeah, I think it's time. We've covered a fair bit of ground.
It's time.
Yeah.
So let's sign off by saying that stay safe, stay non-violent, and stay simplified.